The great council chamber stretched toward a ceiling lost in artificial twilight. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sectors, their forms ranging from the insectoid Clixari to the gas-floating Nethium. Today's session had dragged on for hours, and most delegates were thinking about their evening meals, rather than the nervous ambassador standing at the speaker's platform. Ambassador Velkoth adjusted his translator collar with 3 of his 4 arms. His scaled skin had turned a pale blue, a sign of anxiety among his people. He tapped the console and holographic images filled the air above the chamber floor. "Honored delegates," he began, his voice amplified across the vast room. 3 months ago, our survey team discovered ruins on the planet Kresh 4. These structures predate any known civilization in this sector. A few delegates looked up from their data tablets. Most continued their private conversations. Velkoth continued, projecting images of carved symbols on ancient walls. These markings matched the alphabet from the old legends. The human alphabet. The chamber erupted in clicking, whistling, and various sounds of laughter. High Counselor Tharn, a massive Kratari with red armored plates covering his body, slammed his fist on his desk. The sound echoed like thunder. "Not this again," Tharn growled. "Every season, someone claims to have found proof of humans. They are myths, Ambassador. Stories we tell our young to teach them about the dangers of unchecked aggression." Velkoth's skin flushed darker blue. "But the evidence is likely a hoax or misidentified remains of the predecessor civilization," interrupted Counselor Shara, her melodic voice carrying easily through the chamber. She was Sistari, like Velkoth, but her scales shimmered with the deep green of high status. "We have actual historical concerns to address. The border disputes with the Helion cluster require our attention." Velkoth gathered his papers and left the platform, defeated. As he walked through the corridors outside the chamber, a young female approached him. She had the characteristic features of the Zenthi species: smooth gray skin, large dark eyes, and a compact frame. "Ambassador Velkoth," she said quietly. "I believe you." He looked at her, surprised. "Scholar Jaren, I didn't expect anyone to take my findings seriously. I've spent 12 years studying the human question," Jaren explained, falling into step beside him. "I've visited 73 sites across the galaxy that show human influence. They were real. They existed, and I think something happened that made them disappear, but not destroy themselves as the legends claim." Velkoth stopped walking. "You think they're still out there?" "I think they left," Jaren said, her voice barely above a whisper. "During the Great Galactic War, 300 years ago, when all our species were too busy killing each other to pay attention, the humans simply vanished. No bodies, no destroyed worlds, just empty colonies and silence. They reached a viewing port overlooking the city planet of Nexus Prime. Billions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked on this artificial world, the heart of galactic civilization. Ships moved between towering structures like insects around flowers. Why would they leave?" Velkoth asked. "To escape us," Jaren said simply. "The legends paint them as violent monsters, but every archaeological site I've studied shows something different. They were builders, artists, scientists. Yes, they were effective warriors, but they didn't glorify war like we do. Maybe they looked at our endless conflicts and decided they wanted no part of it." Velkoth was about to respond when an alarm began to sound throughout the station. Not the urgent wail of an attack, but the steady pulse of an unknown contact alert. Both of them pulled out their data tablets as information flooded across their screens. "Multiple contacts at the edge of explored space," Velkoth read aloud. "Energy signatures consistent with advanced propulsion systems. Number of vessels? That can't be right. How many?" Jaren asked, her voice tight. "Over 3,000. Moving in perfect formation." They looked at each other, and Jaren saw her own shock reflected in Velkoth's expression. Without speaking, they both ran back toward the council chamber. The chamber was in chaos when they arrived. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding explanations. Holographic displays showed sensor readings from border stations. The readings all told the same impossible story. Something massive was heading toward galactic space, and it was moving fast. High Counselor Tharn called for order, his voice booming over the noise. "Silence. We have reports from 7 different stations. All confirm the same readings. A fleet of unknown origin is approaching. Defense Fleet Command estimates they will reach Border Station Epsilon 7 in 3 standard days. Could it be the Helion cluster?" someone asked. "Negative," responded the military liaison, a cyborg officer with more mechanical parts than organic ones. These energy signatures don't match any known species. The power output from these vessels exceeds our largest dreadnoughts by a factor of 10. Each vessel, the chamber fell silent. That kind of power was impossible with current technology. Even the ancient predecessors hadn't built ships that powerful, according to the fragments of their technology that had been recovered. Perhaps it's a sensor error, suggested Counselor Shara, though her voice lacked conviction. 7 stations all reporting the same readings. Tharn shook his massive head. Unlikely. Jaren stepped forward, her heart pounding. She had no authority to speak in the council chamber, but something drove her forward anyway. Honored Counselor's permission to speak? Tharn glared at her. Scholar Jaren, this is not your place. I know what they are, she said loudly enough for the entire chamber to hear. Or rather, who they are. The chamber erupted again. Delegates demanded she be removed. Others called for silence. Tharn raised his hand and quiet gradually returned. You have 30 seconds to explain yourself, Scholar. Jaren's mouth was dry, but she spoke clearly. The humans didn't destroy themselves, they left. And now they're coming back. Laughter filled the chamber, but it was nervous laughter now. The timing was too perfect. Too terrifying. Ridiculous, Tharn declared. Humans are legends. Myths we use to scare children. Then explain the fleet, Jaren challenged. Explain vessels more advanced than anything we've ever built, appearing from the direction of unexplored space. Explain why their formation patterns match the tactical doctrines described in the few human military texts we've recovered. Tharn had no answer. No one did. The council session ended in disarray. Emergency protocols were activated. Defense Fleet Command recalled all available vessels to prepare for potential first contact with an unknown species. Or, if Jaren was right, with a species that was supposed to be extinct. That night, Jaren stood at the same viewing port staring up at the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of mapped space, something was coming. She had spent her entire adult life trying to prove humans had existed. She had never considered what it would mean if they came back. Behind her, the city continued its normal rhythm, but Jaren knew that rhythm was about to change forever. The galaxy had grown comfortable with its myths and legends. It had grown comfortable thinking humans were nothing more than cautionary tales. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn the truth. Myths could bleed, legends could return, and reality, Jaren suspected, would prove far more complicated than any story. Border Station Epsilon 7 hung in the darkness between stars like a metal flower. Its primary purpose was to monitor the edge of explored space and provide early warning of any threats. For 200 years, it had been the quietest posting in the entire defense fleet. That was about to change. Commander Thress paced the observation deck, his forelegs moving in an agitated pattern that his crew knew meant trouble. His species, the Vorthian, were normally calm and methodical. Seeing their commander anxious made everyone nervous. Time to contact? He asked for the 5th time in an hour. 14 hours, Commander, responded Lieutenant Kayav from her sensor station. She was young, barely out of the academy, and this was supposed to be an easy first assignment. They're maintaining speed. Still no response to our hails. Thress examined the sensor display again. The approaching fleet had resolved into individual contacts. 3,417 vessels, to be exact. They moved with mathematical precision, their formation never wavering. Whatever species commanded that fleet had mastered the art of coordinated movement on a scale the current galaxy had never achieved. Sir, we have incoming communication from Nexus Prime, announced the communications officer. It's Scholar Jaren. She says it's urgent. Thress gestured for the connection to be opened. Jaren's face appeared on the screen, and behind her, he could see the chaos of what looked like a hastily assembled research center. Commander Thress, she said quickly, I'm being sent to your station. I arrive in 6 hours with a team of linguists and historians. We think we know who's coming, and if we're right, I'm the only one who might be able to communicate with them. The humans, Thress said flatly. He wasn't asking. The rumor had spread through the fleet like fire. Yes, I've been studying their language fragments for years. If they're really out there, someone needs to try speaking their tongue. The council thinks I'm crazy, but they're desperate enough to send me anyway. Thress appreciated her honesty. 6 hours. We'll prepare quarters for your team. And Scholar? Hurry. The next 6 hours passed like days. The unknown fleet continued its approach, silent and unstoppable. Thress ordered constant hails on every frequency, in every known language. Nothing came back except the steady electromagnetic signature of the advancing ships. When Jaren's shuttle docked, Thress met her personally at the airlock. She had brought 3 other linguists and a security escort that looked more nervous than protective. "Show me everything you have," Jaren said without preamble. They hurried to the command center. Jaren studied the sensor data with intense focus, occasionally making notes on her data tablet. The other linguists gathered around her, speaking in low voices. "The formation," one of them said, pointing at the display. "It matches the pattern from the Battle of Kepler 4042. That was described in the old texts." "If those texts were accurate," another linguist cautioned. "Accurate enough," Jaren murmured. "Commander, try this frequency." She input a series of numbers into the communication console. It's referenced in several human documents as a standard first contact protocol. "Broadcast this message." She handed him a data chip. Thress loaded it and played the message. It was a series of tones and pulses that meant nothing to his ears, followed by mathematical sequences, the universal language of any technological species. They waited. Seconds turned into minutes. The fleet continued its approach, now less than 4 hours away. Then the communication console erupted with activity. Every screen lit up at once. An audio signal came through, clean and clear. It was a voice speaking in a language that made Jaren gasp. "Unknown station, this is Terran Expeditionary Fleet, commanded by Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran United Systems. We apologize for our unannounced approach. We have been monitoring your communications and mean you no harm. We request permission to send a diplomatic vessel to your station for first contact, under peaceful terms." The translation came through the computer, but Jaren was already translating herself, her voice shaking. "They said they're human, Terran. That's their word for themselves, from their home planet Terra, which they also called Earth." Thress made a decision that he knew would either make him a hero or get him court-martialed. "Terran Expeditionary Fleet, this is Commander Thress of Border Station Epsilon 7. You have permission to approach. We welcome peaceful contact." 3 hours later, a single human ship detached from the massive fleet. It was small, no larger than a standard courier vessel, but its hull was smooth and unmarked in ways that spoke of technology the galaxy had never seen. No visible weapons ports, no obvious propulsion system. It simply moved through space like it belonged there. The ship docked with a precision that impressed even Thress's experienced crew. The airlock cycled, and for the first time in 300 years, humans stood before members of the galactic community. Captain Sarah Chen was tall by human standards, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style, and eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. She wore a uniform of deep blue with silver insignia. Behind her stood 4 other humans, each watching the gathered aliens with calm, professional interest. "Commander Thress," Chen said, speaking now in perfect galactic standard. "Thank you for granting us docking permission. I am Captain Sarah Chen. On behalf of humanity, I greet you in peace." Thress found his voice. "Captain Chen, forgive my directness, but you must understand our confusion. Humans are considered extinct, or mythological. Most of the galaxy believes you never existed at all." Chen smiled, though there was sadness in it. "We know, we've been watching. When we left 300 years ago, the galaxy was tearing itself apart in war. We decided to remove ourselves from the equation. We found space beyond your borders in the dark between galaxies, and we built a new home there. Why come back now?" Jaren asked, stepping forward. "Why reveal yourselves after all this time?" Chen's expression turned serious. "Because something is coming. Something that will destroy everything in this galaxy unless you prepare. We've been tracking it for 50 years. It's called the Devourer Fleet, and it's a self-replicating machine intelligence from another galaxy. It consumes everything, organic life, resources, even the stars themselves. It's already destroyed 3 galaxies that we know of. This galaxy is next." The command center fell silent. Thress felt his blood turn cold. "How long do we have?" 6 months, maybe less. The first scout probes are already entering the outer regions. They'll strip a few worlds to gather resources, then the main fleet will arrive. Billions of machines, all programmed for one purpose: consume and expand. "Why should we believe you?" asked one of the security officers, his hand moving toward his weapon. "You appear from nowhere with warnings of doom. This could be a trick." Chen didn't look offended. She simply pulled out a data device and handed it to Thress. This contains all our sensor data, our encounters with Devourer scouts in other regions, and tactical analysis of their capabilities. Study it, verify it, but do it quickly because whether you believe us or not, they're coming. Thress took the device. And what do you want from us? Alliance, Chen said simply. We can't fight them alone. Neither can you. Together we have a chance. Separately we all die. The Council will never agree, Jarin said quietly. Many species fear humans. The legends speak of your violence, your aggression. The legends aren't wrong, Chen admitted. We are good at violence when necessary. We're good at war. That's why we left. We didn't want to become the monsters the galaxy feared. But now those skills are the only thing that might save everyone, including us. She looked at each person in the command center. 300 years ago, we walked away from a galaxy that didn't want us. Now we're asking to come back, not as conquerors, but as allies, as defenders. The choice is yours, but I need you to understand something. Chen's voice became harder, more commanding. The Devourers don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They turn living worlds into dead machines. If you reject our help because of ancient fears and legends, you won't get a second chance. Commander Thress looked at Jarin, who nodded slowly. He made his second major decision of the day. I will take your message to the Galactic Council. I will recommend they listen. But Captain Chen, you should know. The Council is slow to change and fast to fear. This won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, Chen replied. But easy or not, time is running out. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most heavily attended in history. Every species had sent their highest representatives, and the tension in the chamber was thick enough to taste. At the center of it all stood Captain Sarah Chen, flanked by two other humans, facing a semicircle of alien faces that ranged from curious to openly hostile. High Counselor Tharn rose from his seat, his red armor plates reflecting the chamber lights. Captain Chen, you claim humans have been living in the void between galaxies for 3 centuries. You claim an existential threat is coming that will destroy us all. These are extraordinary claims. They are, Chen agreed calmly, which is why I brought extraordinary evidence. The holographic displays filled with data, sensor readings, video footage of massive machine swarms stripping planets down to their cores, mathematical models showing the Devourer's expansion pattern. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. Counselor Shara studied the data with her analytical Sistari mind. Even if this threat is real, why should we trust you? Your species abandoned the galaxy. You have no claim to authority here. We're not claiming authority, Chen said. We're offering help. We've fought Devourer scouts before. We know their tactics, their weaknesses. We've developed weapons and strategies specifically designed to counter them. You haven't. War Master Gulthor stood, his massive Kratari frame towering over most others in the chamber. He was the supreme commander of the Galactic Defense Forces, and his reputation for aggression was legendary. You speak of weapons and strategies. Show us these miracles of human engineering. Prove you're not simply trying to frighten us into submission. Chen met his gaze without flinching. Our fleet remains at the border as agreed. We won't bring military forces into your space without permission. But War Master, I'll be blunt. Whether you believe us or not, the Devourers are coming. We detected scout probes entering the Outer Rim 2 days ago. They'll reach inhabited worlds within weeks. Convenient timing, Gulthor sneered. Humans appear and suddenly there's an enemy only they can fight. This sounds like the beginning of a conquest, wrapped in warnings of salvation. War Master, Jarin spoke up from her observer section. I've analyzed the data Captain Chen provided. It's consistent with energy signatures we've been detecting in the Outer Rim for months. We dismiss them as sensor ghosts or natural phenomena. We were wrong. A scholar speaks of military matters, Gulthor dismissed her with a wave. This council needs facts, not academic theories. Chen's jaw tightened, but her voice remained controlled. Then here's a fact. The Kratari 3rd Battle Group is currently investigating the energy signatures in the Helix sector. They should have reported back 3 hours ago. They haven't. The chamber erupted. Gulthor immediately activated his command console, demanding reports from his fleet. The look on his face told everyone what he was learning, or rather what he wasn't learning. There was no response from the 3rd Battle Group. This proves nothing, Gulthor said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Communication failures happen. You're right, Chen said. So send another battle group to investigate. But War Master, I'm begging you. Send them prepared for combat. Send them with the tactical data we've provided. Give them a fighting chance. Gulthor's pride warred with his tactical sense. Pride 1. The Kratari fleet needs no help from humans. We will investigate, and we will respond with appropriate force. And if this turns out to be a human trap, Captain Chen, your fleet will answer for it. He turned to the council. I propose the human fleet be ordered to leave immediately. If they refuse, we treat them as hostile invaders. The council dissolved into argument. Some sided with Gulthor, convinced this was a human trick. Others, led by Shara and a handful of cautious voices, urged patience and verification. Tharn, caught between military advisors and political reality, called for a vote. Before the vote could proceed, Chen held up her hand. I have a proposal. Let me prove our intentions. The Kratari can send an escort fleet to monitor our vessels. We'll demonstrate our technology and our commitment to peaceful cooperation. If we're lying, you'll have your proof. If we're telling the truth, you'll see what you're facing. Gulthor's laugh was harsh. You want our fleet to escort you? To legitimize your presence? No, the second battle group will intercept your fleet and escort you out of galactic space. If you resist, we will fire. Chen's expression never changed, but something cold entered her eyes. War Master, I strongly advise against treating us as hostile. We came in peace. We want to remain peaceful, but we're not leaving and we're not your enemies. You're trespassing in galactic space, Gulthor declared. That makes you exactly our enemies. The vote went as predicted. 32 species sided with Gulthor. 15 urged caution. The human fleet was ordered to withdraw immediately or face military action. Chen looked at each council member in turn. You're making a mistake. The Devourers are real and they're coming. When you finally believe that, we'll still be here ready to help. I just hope some of you are still alive to accept that help. She and her delegation left the chamber in silence. Jaren caught up with them in the corridor outside. Captain, there must be something we can do, some way to convince them. Chen's professional mask slipped for just a moment, showing frustration and sadness beneath. Scholar Jaren, humanity spent 3 centuries learning a hard lesson. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. We'll wait at the border. When the evidence becomes undeniable, they'll call for us. They always do. 2 days later, the Kratari Second Battle Group, 47 warships representing the finest military technology the galaxy possessed, moved to intercept the human fleet. Gulthor commanded from his flagship, confident in his numerical superiority and technological prowess. The human fleet waited in formation, silent and unmoving as the Kratari vessels approached. Gulthor opened a channel. Human fleet, this is War Master Gulthor of the Kratari Dominion. You are ordered to leave immediately or be fired upon. You have 10 minutes to comply. Captain Chen's voice came back calm and almost sad. War Master, please reconsider. We don't want conflict. 9 minutes, Gulthor responded. The minutes ticked down. The human fleet made no move to leave. When the timer reached 0, Gulthor gave the order. All ships fire. 47 warships unleashed their weapons. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds, everything the Kratari had. They threw at the human formation. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for generations. The human ships didn't return fire. They didn't need to. Point defense systems, moving faster than any Kratari sensor could track, intercepted every single projectile. Energy shields that hadn't been visible before suddenly shimmered into existence, absorbing beam weapons like they were flashlights. In 30 seconds of continuous fire, the Kratari had achieved exactly nothing. Then the humans responded. Not with weapons, but with something worse. Every Kratari ship suddenly lost power. Engines shut down. Weapons went offline. Life support continued. The humans weren't trying to kill them, but everything else simply stopped working. 47 warships drifted helpless while the human fleet remained perfectly operational. Chen's voice came over every speaker on every Kratari ship. War Master Gulthor, we have disabled your fleet without firing a single offensive weapon. Your crews are safe. Your ships will regain power in 1 hour. I'm doing this to prove a point. We don't want to be your enemies. We're here to help. But understand this, if we wanted to conquer you, we could. We don't want that. We want to save you. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was harder. The third battle group is gone, War Master. All ships, all crews. The Devourers took them. We found the wreckage. I'm uploading the data to your flagship now. Look at what's coming. Look at what killed your people, and then decide if your pride is worth the death of your species. The transmission ended. The human fleet resumed its position at the border, waiting. Aboard his powerless flagship, Gulthor looked at the data Chen had sent. Images of Kratari ships torn apart by machines. Good warriors dead, his warriors. For the first time in his long military career, War Master Gulthor felt something he had never experienced before. He felt afraid. The Galactic Council reconvened an emergency session 48 hours after the Kratari's second battle group was disabled. This time there was no debate about whether humans were real, and there was no question about whether the Devourer threat existed. The wreckage of the third battle group had been confirmed. More concerning, 3 more Devourer scout groups had been detected and 2 mining colonies in the Outer Rim had gone silent. Captain Chen stood before the council again, but the atmosphere was different now. Fear had replaced hostility. Desperation had replaced pride. Councillor Shara spoke first. Captain Chen, the council has reviewed all evidence. We accept that the Devourer threat is real. We also accept that our current military capabilities are insufficient. What do you propose? Chen activated a holographic display. Complete military integration. Human advisors embedded with every species' armed forces. Technology sharing on defensive systems. Unified command structure for the coming battle. And most importantly, you need to let us teach you how to fight this enemy. Gulthor, his pride deeply wounded but his tactical sense intact, leaned forward. What makes humans better suited to fight machines than any of us? Because we've been fighting them for 50 years, Chen replied. Because we've lost battles and learned from them. Because we developed our entire military doctrine around this specific threat. And because, War Master, humans are very, very good at war. She pulled up tactical displays showing Devourer attack patterns. The Devourers learn from every engagement. They adapt. They improve. To beat them, you need to think like them. Fast, ruthless, and without emotion. You need to be willing to sacrifice pieces to win the game. Most species aren't psychologically built for that kind of warfare. Humans are. Jaren, now officially appointed as the human liaison officer, added, the old legends about human violence weren't wrong. They were simply incomplete. Humans are capable of terrible things in war, but they're also capable of directing that violence precisely where needed to save lives. That's what the galaxy needs now. The Council voted unanimously. The human fleet was granted full access to galactic space. Human advisors would be assigned to all major military installations. Technology transfers would begin immediately. 3 weeks later, military training facilities across the galaxy had been transformed. Human instructors worked alongside alien cadets, teaching tactics that seemed almost brutal in their efficiency. At the Kratari Primary Military Academy, a human named Commander Jackson ran training exercises that pushed Kratari warriors to their limits. His approach was simple and harsh. You're used to honorable combat, Jackson told a group of veteran Kratari soldiers. You're used to facing enemies who think like you do. The Devourers don't care about honor. They don't care about glory. They care about one thing, destroying you efficiently. So you need to become efficient at destroying them first. He showed them footage of human forces engaging Devourer scouts. The humans fought with coordinated precision, using every advantage, accepting casualties when necessary to achieve objectives, and showing no hesitation. It was unsettling for the Kratari to watch. You call this honorable? One warrior challenged. Jackson's response was blunt. I call it survival. Honor is worthless if you're dead. The question isn't whether you like our methods. The question is whether you want to live. The training was similar across all species. The insectoid Klixari learned human swarm tactics that turned their numerical advantage into a deadly weapon. The technologically advanced Nethim were taught to use their superior sensors for coordinated strikes rather than individual duels. Every species received training tailored to their strengths, all based on human tactical doctrine. But the training went beyond combat tactics. Human engineers worked with alien counterparts to upgrade defensive systems. The results were remarkable and sometimes disturbing. On the Sistari homeworld, engineer Rebecca Torres demonstrated new point defense systems to a group of skeptical military scientists. Your current systems have a reaction time of 0.3 seconds, Torres explained. Against Devourer attack patterns, that's far too slow. Our systems reduce that to 0.005 seconds using predictive algorithms. Predictive algorithms, one scientist repeated. You mean artificial intelligence. That's banned by council law. Torres nodded. I know. It's banned because you're afraid of creating another threat like the Devourers. But here's the reality. To beat advanced AI, you need advanced AI. You can keep your laws and die with honor, or you can adapt and survive. Your choice. The Sistari Council made their choice. The laws were suspended. AI systems were installed. Similar debates happened on every world, and every time survival won over tradition. Jaren found herself working 18-hour days, mediating between human advisors and alien leaders. The cultural clashes were constant. Humans planned operations with casualty estimates that shocked most species. Humans used technology that many considered immoral. Humans spoke casually about acceptable losses and collateral damage. She confronted Captain Chen about it one evening in the human flagship's briefing room. Your people are scaring them, Jaren said quietly. The way you talk about death, about sacrifice, it's making species question whether you're really here to help. Chen looked tired. She had been coordinating the defense of an entire galaxy while managing diplomatic crises daily. Scholar, let me tell you about human history. We fought wars for thousands of years. We've made terrible mistakes and learned terrible lessons. One lesson we learned is this. In war, being nice gets people killed. Being efficient, being ruthless when necessary saves lives in the long run. But you plan for losses, Jaren insisted. You write reports saying things like acceptable casualty rate and strategic sacrifice. Don't you care about your own people? Chen's expression hardened. We care more than you know. That's why we do this. Every casualty estimate we make is designed to minimize total deaths. Yes, we accept that some will die, because if we don't accept that reality and plan around it, everyone dies. Do you understand? The Devourers don't take breaks. They don't negotiate. They kill everything. So we do what's necessary to stop them, even if it makes us look like monsters. Jaren was quiet for a moment. Is this why you left? 300 years ago? Because you knew you were capable of becoming monsters? We left because we were tired of being monsters, Chen corrected. We wanted to build something better away from constant war. But some enemies don't give you the choice to be better. The Devourers are one of those enemies. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. Devourer forces had attacked a research station in the Kepler sector. It was their first major attack on a populated facility, and it was ongoing. The Council's response fleet arrived to find human ships already engaged. The battle was unlike anything the galactic species had seen. Human vessels moved with perfect coordination, their weapons firing in calculated patterns designed to herd Devourer units into kill zones. When a human ship took critical damage, it immediately moved to ram the nearest Devourer cluster, destroying dozens of enemy units in its death. The combined human and galactic fleet won the battle, but the cost was high. 7 human ships destroyed, thousands of human crew members dead. The humans didn't mourn dramatically. They filed reports, analyzed what worked and what didn't, and immediately began planning improvements for the next battle. This pattern repeated across the galaxy over the next 2 months. Devourer attacks intensified. Combined forces learned to fight together. Casualties mounted on both sides. And slowly, grudgingly, the galactic species began to understand what humans had been trying to teach them. War wasn't about honor or glory. War was about winning, and winning required sacrifice. At a joint training facility on Nexus Prime, Commander Jackson addressed a mixed group of recruits from 15 different species. His message was the same one he'd been teaching for weeks, but now the students listened differently. The Devourers have one advantage over us, Jackson said. They don't fear death because they're not truly alive. But we have an advantage too. We fight for something. We fight to protect our homes, our families, our futures. The Devourers just consume. So when you're in battle and you're scared, and you will be scared, remember that fear means you're alive. Use it, let it make you sharp, let it make you focused, and then do what needs to be done. He looked at faces from dozens of worlds, all united now by common purpose. You're not fighting like your species anymore. You're not fighting like humans. You're fighting like something new, a galaxy that refuses to die. Make the Devourers regret coming here. The students, who had arrived as representatives of their separate species, left that day as something different. They left as soldiers of a united galaxy, and the galaxy, for the first time in its long history, was learning to fight as one. The sensor displays told a story that no one wanted to believe. The main Devourer fleet had arrived at the edge of the galaxy. and it was larger than every worst-case scenario combined. Billions of machine units moving in formations that blotted out entire starfields. The advanced scouts had been terrifying. The main fleet was extinction made manifest. Every available warship from every species in the galaxy had gathered at the Nexus system. It was the most strategic location, a hub of transportation routes that led deeper into galactic space. If the Devourers took Nexus, they could spread throughout the galaxy like poison through veins. The combined fleet would make its stand here. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the human flagship Indomitable, studying tactical displays with War Master Gulthor and a dozen other fleet commanders. The human ship's command center was larger than most species expected, designed to coordinate fleet actions on a massive scale. "They'll hit us in waves," Chen explained, manipulating the holographic display. "The first wave will test our defenses, probe for weaknesses. The second wave will exploit whatever they learn. By the third wave, they'll have adapted to counter our tactics. We need to hurt them badly in waves 1 and 2, or wave 3 will overwhelm us." Gulthor studied the predicted Devourer approach vectors. Over the past months, he had learned to respect human tactical analysis, even when it made his warrior's heart rebel. "Our forces are spread across 3 defensive lines. If the first line falls, when the first line falls," Chen corrected gently. "War Master, we need to accept reality. The first line will fall. It's designed to fall. The question is how much damage we do before we retreat to the second line." A Sistari admiral, Shara's own cousin, spoke up. "You plan for defeat? This is your human efficiency?" Chen met her eyes steadily. "I plan for reality. The Devourers outnumber us 300 to 1. We're not going to win by being optimistic. We're going to win by being smart, being ruthless, and being willing to pay the price." She pulled up a new display. "This is the real plan. While we're fighting the main fleet here, human engineering teams will activate a network of spatial disruption devices we've been secretly deploying for the past 2 months. These devices will create a barrier that seals the galaxy off from extragalactic space. It'll trap the Devourers on one side and us on the other." "Trap them outside?" Gulthor asked. "Then we've already won." "No," Chen said quietly. "We trap them inside with us but cut off their reinforcements. The billions of Devourer units already in the galaxy will be everything they have. No new adaptations from their main intelligence. We can beat a finite enemy. An infinite one will always overwhelm us eventually." Jaren, present as liaison officer, saw the problem immediately. "But Captain, if you seal the galaxy, your people's homeworlds are outside the galaxy. You'll be trapped here permanently." The command center fell silent. Every alien officer present suddenly understood the true cost of the human plan. Chen nodded slowly. "The Terran United Systems exist in the void between galaxies. Our worlds, our families, our entire civilization, all outside. If we activate the barrier, we cut ourselves off from everything we've built for 3 centuries. Forever. We can't go home." "Then don't activate it," urged the Sistari admiral. "There must be another way." "There isn't," Chen said flatly. "We've run every simulation. This is the only scenario where the galaxy survives, so humanity will pay the price. We came back to help. This is how we help." Gulthor's voice was rough with emotion.
"The Council has not authorized this sacrifice." "The Council doesn't get to authorize it," Chen replied.
"This is humanity's choice. We're doing it whether you approve or not, but I need you to understand what we're asking in return. If we do this, if we trap ourselves here forever, we need to know we're welcome. We need to know we're not going to wake up in 50 years to find the galaxy has decided humans are too dangerous and need to be eliminated. We need a home, War Master. That's the price of our sacrifice." Before anyone could respond, the alert klaxon sounded throughout the fleet. The Devourer vanguard had been detected. They were 30 minutes out. Chen's voice became crisp and professional. "All ships to battle stations. Execute defense plan Omega-7. First-line commanders, you know your jobs. Hurt them badly. Make every shot count, and when I give the retreat order, you follow it immediately." "Understood?" Acknowledgements came from hundreds of ships. The combined galactic fleet moved into position, a coordination of species and technologies that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. Humans had taught them to fight together. Now they would prove whether the lessons had been learned well enough. The Devourer vanguard appeared like a storm of metal and malice. The first wave consisted of millions of small attack units, each one independently intelligent and viciously efficient. They swarmed toward the first defensive line like locusts. The defense opened fire with everything they had. Human-designed point defense systems turned space into a web of destruction. Energy weapons, kinetic rounds, missile swarms, all coordinated through shared tactical networks that let ships fight as one organism. The carnage was immense. Thousands of Devourer units died every second, but thousands more kept coming. The first line held for 2 hours. Ships fought with desperate courage, using tactics that had been drilled into them through months of brutal training. When human vessels were crippled, their crews evacuated to nearby ships before the automated systems rammed the wreck into Devourer formations. Other species learned to do the same, turning their own disabled ships into weapons. The cost was terrible. Entire squadrons were wiped out. Species who had never fought together were dying together, united by common purpose. Chen watched the casualty reports with a face carved from stone. Each number represented lives, people with families and dreams. But she couldn't afford to feel it now. Feeling came later, if there was a later. "First line, begin fighting retreat," she ordered when the moment was right. Second line, prepare to receive them. The withdrawal was chaotic but controlled. Ships covered each other as they fell back, bleeding but intact. The Devourers pursued, eager to finish their wounded prey. The second defensive line opened fire the moment the Devourers entered range. The machines had adapted to first-line tactics, but the second line used different weapons, different strategies. The Devourers learned again, but learning took time, and time meant more machines destroyed. The pattern repeated at the third line. By then, both sides had taken massive casualties. The space around Nexus Prime was filled with debris and wreckage, both organic and machine. Chen received a report from her engineering teams. The spatial disruption network was ready. All devices were in position and powered up. She just had to give the order. But giving that order meant ending any chance of return. It meant humanity would be exiled from its own home forever. She looked at Jaren, who had been watching the battle with tears streaming down her face. The young scholar had spent her life proving humans existed. Now she was watching them sacrifice everything to save a galaxy that had forgotten them. "Scholar," Chen said quietly amid the chaos of battle, "tell me honestly, will the galaxy accept us? Will we have a place here when this is over?" Jaren thought of the past months, the training facilities where humans and aliens learned to trust each other, the battles where humans died protecting worlds they'd never seen, the quiet moments when human advisors spoke about their own doubts and fears, revealing themselves as people rather than myths. "Yes," Jaren said firmly. "You'll have a home. I'll make sure of it. We all will." Chen nodded once. "Then it's decided." She opened the fleet-wide channel. "All human vessels, this is Captain Chen. Activate barrier sequence in 5 minutes. Authorization code Alpha Omega 7. To all our friends in the combined fleet, it's been an honor." Human ships throughout the galaxy began powering up the spatial disruption devices. The energy buildup was detectable even to basic sensors. The Devourers recognized the threat and surged forward in a desperate attempt to stop it. The final battle was brutal beyond description. Ships fought at point-blank range. Crews boarded enemy vessels in desperate melees. The Devourers threw everything they had at the barrier devices, and the Defenders threw everything they had right back. When the barrier activated, it was like watching a curtain fall across reality. A shimmering wall of energy spread throughout the galaxy's edge, sealing it off from extragalactic space. The Devourers still inside found themselves cut off from their main intelligence, unable to adapt further. They were still dangerous. Billions of killing machines spread across galactic space, but they were now beatable. The cost had been paid in full. 14 human ships had sacrificed themselves in the final push. Thousands of human crew were dead, and every human left alive was now forever separated from their true home. 5 years later, Jaren stood at a memorial on Nexus Prime. The monument listed the names of every being, human and alien, who had died in what was now called the Devourer War. The galaxy had been saved. The machines had been hunted down and destroyed over years of careful operations. Peace had returned. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood beside her. The human looked older, carrying the weight of command and loss, but she also looked settled, like someone who had finally found their place. "Do you regret it?" Jaren asked. "Giving up everything to stay here?" Chen was quiet for a long moment. "Every day I think about what we left behind. But then I look around and see what we gained. Humans have colonies on 30 worlds now. We're not myths anymore. We're neighbors, friends, part of the community. My crew members are marrying into other species. Human children are being born who've never known anything but galactic society. This is home now, she smiled slightly. Besides, we learned something important. Home isn't a place. It's not Earth or Terra or the Void stations. Home is where you're needed, where you belong, and the galaxy needed us. So we stayed. Across the galaxy, that sentiment was being echoed. Former enemies trained together at joint military academies. Human technology had been integrated into galactic civilization. The legends of violent humans had been replaced by true stories. Stories of sacrifice, of courage, of a people who gave up everything to save strangers. The myths had become real, and reality had proven far stranger, far more noble and far more hopeful than any legend could have captured. On the edge of galactic space, monitoring stations staffed by crews from a dozen species kept watch on the barrier. The devourers were gone, but vigilance remained. Different species worked together, sharing the long watches, their children growing up knowing only a united galaxy. And if sometimes the humans on those stations looked out toward the barrier and wondered about the home they'd never see again, they kept those thoughts private. They had made their choice. They had found their place. The galaxy had thought humans were myths. Then their Armada appeared. And in the end, humanity had taught the galaxy the most important lesson of all, that survival was worth any price, and that family wasn't about blood or species. It was about who stood beside you when everything was on the line. The galaxy had learned, and it would never forget.